Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ojulari wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
But a lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to.
He look crazy, Bill. Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back. I love.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome into a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, just like we are every single day. Remember our friends over at Go online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. They're located down in LaPlace, Louisiana, if you want to check them out. Easy to find online, as we said, but if you're looking for brand new cars, go check out Go Chevrolet, GEAUXChevrolet.com. Very competitive prices right now with trucks. If you're looking for some trucks right now, you can hit them up. In fact, if you're tired of being overcharged for trucks, get over to Go Chevrolet. They can get you into a Silverado, a Sierra, a half-ton truck right now over at GEAUXChevrolet.com. You can shop all of their inventory, including their Tennessee stores, over at Go Chevrolet. Good Monday morning to you.
Good to have you back, my friend.
Yeah, buddy. It's good to be here.
Big respect to you. For people that think that they want to do this, not as easy as it looks whenever you have to host the show. Almost made the mistake of the classic sprint through the document in the first 30 minutes, but caught myself. I was like, I remember Jordy telling me the first time you do this, be careful.
It's a marathon. It is a marathon. You don't want to sprint. Don't
Let's take a break.
Let them see y'all sprint. Appreciate you here, being here on Friday. Thank you to you, Katie, and the crew for filling in. Man, I got slammed by the stomach bug, but all good, man. I mean, actually was able to kind of get through it in the morning, and then I hit the road and went to New Orleans for a state championship.
You did not look good early. Then you came back looking cherry, and I was like, little bug.
Yeah. It was just a little bit.
One bite.
Just kind of got me a little half morning, but it was cool. I'll tell you all about my time
experience?
down at the Dome. Well, it's a great weekend, man. But first,
let me talking about before that.
Let me first say to everybody out there, man, it is a scary, scary situation right now with Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach. We have kind of followed this thing through social media, and you can see over the last 4 or 5 hours, or at least if you're just waking up, or if you have followed this thing yesterday, this thing has turned critically for Mike Leach overnight. So please keep him, his family, Mississippi State's football program in your thoughts, because at this point, it feels like Mike Leach needs a miracle to survive. I never thought that we would be opening up this Monday morning, even yesterday, reading about the Mike Leach situation, with us, thinking and praying on his life. But it seems as if Leach's health has taken a very critical turn over the weekend. Mississippi State did not make any comments. There's nothing official to the status of his health other than that he was taken to a hospital yesterday from his home. So right now, that's all officially that we do know, is that he was taken to the hospital yesterday from his house. But after that, there has been no information coming out other than social media. And if you just type Mike Leach into your search bar on Twitter or any other platform, you will see names like Brian Kelly, Dana Holgerson, coaches from around not only the SEC but college football, praying for Mike Leach. Ross Dellinger tweeted out just overnight, Mike Leach's health situation is critical. The coach and his family need your prayers. Reese Davis, Darren Ravel, Booger McFarland, Billy Lucci. I mean, just people from all over college football are tweeting Lincoln Riley, Gary Patterson. I mean, you start scrolling down. I mean, a lot of the people have been stopped in their tracks with the news that is coming out over Mike Leach. And like I said here today, we don't have anything official, but reading just the feedback, it looks as if it is a very dire situation. So our thoughts, our prayers are with Leach and his family right now as we start here on this Monday morning. And look, there's no way to transition out of that. I hope that we can have an informative show, but I think the undertone will definitely be keeping an eye on the Leach situation to see what happens, and obviously hoping and praying for the best. But at this time, it seems very critical for the Mississippi State head coach. So, that's one story that was happening over the weekend. There's stories all over the place, and we can dive in. LSU women hoops had a game canceled. LSU men hoops rallied from 20 on the road to beat Wake Forest on Saturday. That was a really cool spot for Matt McMahon and his crew. I thought KJ Williams is an absolute beast, man. He had 35 and 10. It was his season high in points as a Tiger. Cam Hayes chipped in 13 and 5, but LSU rallied in a very ugly game early for the Tigers. Were able to come back, bounce back, and get the win on the road. And that's one of those early season wins that you can always kind of go back to that should bring a group closer. Like I said, at some points they were down as much as 20 and looked as if they were just kind of hanging on for dear life and not trying to get run out of there. But an incredible comeback win for McMahon. LSU basketball over Wake Forest on the road. It was one of these hoopsgiving kind of tournaments, preseason tournaments, or before the conference schedule kicks up, tournaments as LSU's about to get into conference play, and they'll do that with a little bit of momentum here as Wake Forest fell after being up for the majority of the game to LSU on Saturday. And I don't know how much we can say about KJ Williams. You can't say enough, man. That guy was doing it all. If you watch that game, he's got a full game. He can step out and hit the three-pointer. He can step in and knock it down from 15 to 18. He's big enough to play physical, under the goal. He's a very impressive big man. I think we were all curious to see how these Murray State guys who transferred in would, transition into college basketball, into the SEC or to, a click up in competition. And KJ Williams has seemingly answered all of the questions at every turn, and I think Saturday was his brightest moment here as a Tiger, as he was able to put LSU and the basketball program on his back for a couple of stretches there and get out of there with a big win. So shout out to McMahon and the crew. As we said, LSU women's basketball, they had their game canceled on Sunday due to health and safety protocol concerns within the University of New Orleans program. LSU was actively looking for a replacement on Sunday, but was unable to find an opponent. The game will not be rescheduled. For fans who purchased tickets to Saturday's game, refunds will be issued at the end of the season. If you would like to exchange your ticket from the UNO game for a future game, get in touch with the LSU ticket office. But LSU will face off against Lamar inside the Maravich Center Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, when LSU will get back onto the floor. So that was kind of the college hoop headlines from the weekend. Man, I tell you what, man, this weekend for me was headlined by the Pelicans. And I was down at the state championship games on Friday and, saw two classic games, man. I mean, two classic high school football games. St. Thomas More and Lafayette Christian was one that I drove up on at about halftime in the second half. And thanks to Scott Saylor and the crew from Oshner for having me out and making the experience incredible. Was able to go down to the field level and check out the suites and see a bunch of people there that obviously are passionate and love high school football. And it's such a great weekend in our state to bring everybody together. Saw obviously Matt House and Joe Sloan were were in the Dome over the weekend and saw those guys kind of down there recruiting and keeping their eyes on some future prospects. But St. Thomas More and Lafayette Christian, I'm sure you've read about it, you've heard about it, but if you haven't, it came down to the end of the game where Lafayette Christian scored to go up 10. St. Thomas More gets this is all in the last 4 minutes of the game. St. Thomas More gets the ball back about 3 plays later, score, kick an onside kick, get the onside kick on the first play after the onside kick. Quarterback rolls left, kind of shifts the play, looks like the whole play's going left, throws it back across the field into double coverage and just drops it into his wide receiver's stomach for a game-winning touchdown that he gets up, spikes it, flags fly everywhere. I mean, it was a –
At the gun?
No, it wasn't at the gun. There was about a minute and a half left. There was a lot of time left. And Jawan Johnson, who is the talented Lafayette Christian quarterback, he'll be a defensive back when it's all said and done in high school. Got a couple of opportunities, but St. Thomas More picked off a pass and was able to preserve it. But it was a classic high school football game down to the buzzer, really kind of down to the end. And then same thing with St. Charles Catholic and Dunham, as Neil Weiner was there for the first time, and Dunham was there for the first time in a long time. And man, it was a heavy. That was as hard hitting and physical of a football game that I've seen at the high school level in a while. Man, they were popping pads. We were down there for some sections of the game and on the field, and it was a very physical game. And again, Dunham gave up an onside kick in the second half, and that seemed to be the kind of the momentum, the turning point of the game. And St. Charles Catholic was able to kind of to finish it out. Dunham had their chance at the end, and we mentioned Matt House, Jackson House, his son, the quarterback, who I believe is committed to Eastern Kentucky. He is a heck of a player, man. I mean, he is as tough as nails and is just a really good quarterback. And they tried to make as many plays as they could. They made plays all afternoon. It was a back and forth game, but St. Charles Catholic won it at the end. So 2 classic games that I got to see on Friday, and then I kind of got back in the car and got back home. And as I was coming home, the Pelicans were tipping off across the street inside of the arena. And, people were obviously buzzing in the city. When I was walking out of the Dome, you could see people kind of walking into the arena, and everybody was kind of flooding in. So I listened to the game on the way home, and when I got back to the house, turned it on, and I can't remember watching. And look, there's probably a lot of you who has watched a lot more NBA basketball basketball than I have. But I respect the game. I like watching it. I watch it very intently when the playoffs get here and when the kind of the regular season push for the playoffs happen. But a game in December in the regular season in the NBA that felt like the 2 games between New Orleans and Phoenix this weekend was about as good as you can get if you're an NBA fan. I mean, I can't recall seeing 2 games. I mean, look at the reaction from the NBA world to that game, right? I mean, everybody was reacting to the way that game ended. And on Friday, the Pelicans held on for a regular a regulation win, 128-117, where Zion had he had 35 points, which was his career high up to that point, and an emphatic 360 dunk on a run-out pass from Larry Nance at the buzzer that, really kind of broke NBA code, which, I don't get. It's kind of like the unwritten rules of Major League Baseball. If you're not in it, you don't really understand it. They seem very dumb. The unspoken rules in the NBA is you don't pad stats, you don't get run-out layups at the buzzer, you don't shoot threes at the buzzer. I mean, if you see that stuff happening on the court, usually you'll see a reaction from the other team. And Phoenix the other night obviously did not like the way that game ended with Zion catching the run out and just, posterizing the goal. I mean, it was as emphatic and as energetic of an ending that you will see in a December regular season NBA basketball game that I can recall. And
this is bizarre.
Right after the buzzer, Alvarado and Paul are kind of chirping at one another. Then you start to see Monty Williams and Willie Green start to go. And these two guys are friends now. I mean, think about it. Green sat on Monty's bench for a long time. They've got a long relationship with one another as far as just, the respect and history between those two. And to see the way that game ended on Friday, you thought, my goodness, this is going to be an absolute war on Sunday. And the Suns were in town for a little bit of an irregular, scheduling from the NBA where they kept them there through the weekend. They played on Friday night. They were off on Saturday. Then they tipped it back off again on Sunday in New Orleans. So back-to-back games for the Pelicans and Suns. And for the NBA, it couldn't have ended any better on Friday night with Zion Williamson really kind of starting to find his legs in New Orleans and really starting to become the face of the franchise, putting down an emphatic dunk, and then getting to the podium in the postgame and talking about why he did that. And if you missed it, he said, look, he wasn't there for the Suns bouncing the Pelicans out of the playoffs on the floor last year, but he was in that locker room. And, that was just kind of an ode to the brotherhood of his teammates of, I got you, I'm here now, and, we're here to stay. And I thought, if you're a New Orleans fan, it kind of was the launch point, which, kind of what feels like is going to be, hopefully here a multi-year run of just, look at that, man. I mean, look at that freak athlete. And what I loved more about anything, more than anything about it was as the Suns and the Pelicans are like that. As the Suns and Pelicans are kind of like at midcourt, like going back and forth at one another, Zion's kind of like standing behind him, kind of like with his hands in the air, kind of like, hey man, I didn't do it by, that wasn't by accident. I did this stuff on purpose. Like, we're here. And on Sunday, yesterday, that game went into overtime. Chris Paul forced it into overtime at the end of regulation. Paul fouled out in OT. And Zion once again had 35 points as the Pelicans, without Brandon Ingram, without Herb Jones, beat the Phoenix Suns 129-124. And I'm telling you, man, look, it's December, and you don't want to overreact. And there is a lot more of the regular season that is ahead of us. But at this point of the schedule, the Pelicans are for real. I mean, like, they are a legitimate championship contender in the NBA if they stay healthy. Obviously, they got to stay healthy, and they have not proven that they can stay healthy for an extended stretch with, their core guys, with their premier guys like Zion. But you see, when he is healthy, just how much of a mismatch he is. Saric yesterday drew the assignment of trying to guard Zion, and it was, if you've ever been to an AAU gym, if you've ever been to a Catholic League gym, where there's just one or two players that are better than everybody, that you can have defensive schemes for, that you can bring over help, that you can double, maybe even triple team, they're still going to get theirs. And Zion Williamson is doing that in the NBA. I mean, he is doing whatever he wants to do when he wants to do it, without some without some sort of like exotic defense that you got to scheme up to try and stop him. I mean, it is so fun to have him on the team that you pull for, because he is an absolute menace to the NBA. I mean, from a one-on-one standpoint, I cannot think of a perimeter player that can check him just head up. There's no way. His physicality, his ability to handle the ball at that size is very impressive. I know that he had a couple of loose balls get away from him yesterday, but still, the size that he is able to extend away from the rim and break you down with a dribble is just really difficult to do at that level, and he makes it look very easy. And his ability to get to the rim, I mean, just it looks and feels like a middle school high school JV basketball game where there's just one player where you're like, man, we can do everything right, but it doesn't matter because this guy is going to get whatever he wants whenever he wants to get it. I mean, you saw late in that game, he was just holding Saric away from him, extended his hand, grabbing it, sweeping it, and just squaring up to him one-on-one. I mean, there was no play. I mean, it wasn't like they were running any type of set, and I'm not disrespecting Willie Green as a coach. He could do it if you needed to, but when you got that type of luxury out there, just give him the ball and move out of the way. He's either going to get an and one, he's either going to go to the free throw line, or he's either going to dunk it on your face. I mean, all of the options are advantage Pelicans when he's got the ball in his hand and he decides to get to the rim. And I know that leading off in the NBA at this part of the schedule right now is voodoo, but you got to pay attention to what the Pelicans are doing and with the people that they're doing it both with and without. I mean, the fact that Zion's there is awesome. He's staying healthy. Hopefully that can stay consistent. The other guys that are coming along, but you don't even have Brandon Ingram. Like, you don't even have one of your franchise players on the floor. So, I mean, I know Devin Booker was missing yesterday for the Phoenix Suns, but so was Herb Jones and so was Brandon Ingram. I mean, that's about as big of a miss as Booker is. Booker's an MVP candidate. You take both those guys off the floor, your best defensive player and your top two scorer, and go sweep the Suns for a weekend. I know it's December. I don't want to overreact, but I mean that was cool, man. You know, that was what the shuck. You know, I mean, that is what the shuck is going on. And what's going on is that the Pelicans are for real. I loved watching Chris Paul just melt in New Orleans. I mean, it was almost as if he thought he deserved like the respect of the city. I guess he's past that now, but
well, now he's turned into a
kind of a villain. Yeah, right. But incredible.
Yeah, Friday was impressive, but in my opinion, Sunday is like 2 times as impressive because you play a game, Zion scores 35, and then with the Suns, I mean, that's a team that was in the finals 2 years ago and was in the finals hunt last year. So that's a legit team. And to come back and beat them again 2 days later when they kind of saw your game plan, and Monty Williams is a great coach.
Motivated.
And he, adjusted, and you still come out and beat them in really the same way. Like, they game plan for Zion. They had a good game plan, and Zion still found a way, and Willie Green drew up plays, and the Pelicans' depth is what sets them apart.
It felt like a playoff atmosphere through the television yesterday. It
it's
sounded
a rivalry.
like a playoff atmosphere through the radio on Friday. I mean, it was raining. It was bad weather in the city yesterday. The streets were wet, and that place was packed. I mean, usually if you give the NBA buying public an excuse not to go in New Orleans, they won't show up. But yesterday, they beat all the excuses, sold the place out, and had it rocking on a Sunday afternoon in which NFL football was being played. Now, the Saints weren't playing, but, you know, they had a lot of options yesterday. And to see that place as packed as it was, and the feeling around the team, man, it's awesome. It's cool. I think this is what we all kind of felt and envisioned when they won the lottery and they were going to choose Zion. You kind of saw these days ahead, right, where they were going to turn in to a championship contending type of franchise. And now the way they're doing it with the people that they're doing it with, I mean, C.J. McCollum had 30 last week. He had 29 last night.
Zion has 70 in the 2 games combined.
Yeah. I mean, he capped his career high both times. 35 is his career high, and he scored that in both games. And it felt like I said, he could get whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And on an NBA floor, when you can say that, the only other person I've ever seen do that is Shaquille O'Neal. I just a bucket. Like, you know, like if you needed a guaranteed
jump on his back
bucket, just feed it to the diesel and either get him fouled or let him, you know, dunk on you. And Zion is Shaq with ball handling. I mean, you know, like he's Shaq just 30 feet away from the rim that can break you down off of the dribble and get to the rack. He is a freak, man. He's uncomparable. He is He's paid. He's locked up in New Orleans. It will be fun to watch him over the next however many years develop and take the Pelicans wherever they're headed. But it feels like they're heading somewhere where they hadn't been. Either deep into the playoffs, either, conference finals type stuff, or maybe even knocking on the door of an NBA finals. I mean, they have that type of team. I went and watched them play Boston earlier this season. Boston's a different clique. Like, they're a clique above New Orleans. Now, Zion wasn't there that night, the night the Celtics were in town. But the Celtics were rolling that night. Jaylen Brown was on fire. I mean, they looked very deep. They looked very well coached. They looked like they had, all of the pieces that NBA championship teams have. They have to be fearful of the Pelicans, though. I would still take Boston probably in a 7-game series against New Orleans. But you look at New Orleans in a 7-game series and, just like Noah said, once they kind of roll out who they are, they can't really hide. They got a lot of weapons as well and things that not other teams can present. Like the Alvarado, Zion, Larry Nance type of play, they're just, those guys are.
They're constructed
very well.
Yeah.
They're
Which
very,
is surprising.
very well. I know.
You're calling for David Griffin's head 2 years ago.
No, I want to see him play the piano.
Right. And he's put together a team that's built around Zion perfectly. Like, you think about Trey Murphy was the perfect pick.
Perfect.
To put around Zion. And then Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, even though he wasn't playing. This team is put together.
Yeah.
And they got a little FU in them.
Yeah, they do. They're young.
Whole lot. Yeah.
They're young. And in the NBA, that's the sauce.
Mm-hmm. They're bought in.
That's the sauce that if you got young talent that believes.
And we're all going to be here for a minute.
It's a scary.
Trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz. I was embarrassed about my smile. Are you unhappy at yours? Do you not smile back at yourself? I called my friend, Dr. Spillers, over at Johnson Spillers. He fixed my smile, and now everywhere I go, people are complimenting it after the work that Dr. Spillers and the staff did to my mouth. They can do it to yours. Get in touch with them. JohnsonSpillers.com. 2 locations, one in Gonzales, one in Baton Rouge. Easy to find them, JohnsonSpillers.com.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. Sorry, we got internet sniped
I'm not fired yet.
by AT&T.
Not me.
As they got us.
What the shuck?
So welcome back. Appreciate you hanging with us here as we were just closing out our thoughts on the Pelicans. Obviously, football this weekend. A lot of NFL. Obviously, Army-Navy game was the headline and highlight for college football as Army defeats Navy on Saturday. Some obviously cool images and cool parts and traditions of college football all around that game. So it was cool to see that game on display Saturday. But as far as the football news goes in and around LSU, a lot of it has turned towards recruiting and towards announcements on what's going to happen here in the postseason. Remember, our first hour every Monday morning is brought to you by Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. They are located online. They're located down in Acadiana Parish where it's holiday season, and if you're looking to bring a taste of South Louisiana into your holiday work party, into your holiday family gathering, then get in touch with our friends over at Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. Easiest way to do that is online, BayouCarlinOysterCo.com. Use the promo code Jordy, and you'll save yourself 20% on online orders every Monday morning, 7 o'clock hour, brought to you by our friends over at Bayou Carlin Oyster Company, BayouCarlinOysterCo.com. Big news around LSU this weekend is that LSU defensive end B.J. Ojulari declared for the 2023 NFL Draft. I don't know if that surprised a lot of people. I think a lot of people anticipated really after B.J.'s freshman season when he blew up and became one of the best defenders and defending freshmen in college football. You thought he may be here pretty quick, or he may not stay too long. And to see his third year come and go, where it was a really productive season for BJ. I think when Matt House got the job after he was linebackers coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, he had called plays in the SEC for a Kentucky defense that featured Josh Allen, now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. People looked at B.J. Ojulari and thought, what is Matt House going to do with him? How is he going to use him? I mean, you saw him this season change up the way that he had B.J. out there. I mean, not only is B.J. one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, obviously he's one that can get to the quarterback and create chaos as good as anybody in the sport. They showed off his versatility this year. They let him play in space. They put him in some coverage. They let him play some zone-type scheme that, really I think helped out his draft stock. Obviously, his brother Azeez Ojulari plays for the New York Giants. He's really starting to come to his own, so you can see the bloodline that he has there. I think a couple of times he took home the SEC Defensive Player of the Week throughout the season. I mean, he was as good of an LSU defender as they had this year, and that includes Harold Perkins. Now, when Harold got onto the field, BJ was really kind of the one that suffered for the most part at the beginning of it. Then they were able to find a formula to keep them both out there. I think BJ is going to have an excellent NFL career. You will not find somebody more polite, more respectful, more ready for the opportunity, a good representative of LSU. Number 18, obviously somebody that I think really entails everything that goes into that number at LSU. Everything that number is built on, B.J. Ojulari represents. He's as good as a person as he is a football player. So obviously a tough loss for LSU. I don't know if they made it official on what the announcement was. I don't think he's going to play in the bowl game.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
He didn't say in that little, letter.
Post. Yeah, his post.
But I mean, I doubt that he goes through. I mean, I know Jay Ward specified when he put out his announcement. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's always a possibility, but
I mean, where does he rank amongst when you talk about like statesmen for LSU? There wasn't a more constant. It felt like he was a professional.
Yeah,
like a consummate professional in terms of in front of the microphone, like off the field. It's like it couldn't have been a better representation for what LSU's brand is trending toward.
Well, none of that. I mean, he a player too.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. You rarely get both.
Yeah, right. You rarely are able to kind of get both that checks both boxes, and he does. I mean, I think that there were spurts during the season where he was probably grading higher than Will Anderson at that spot. Where in this league, everybody anticipated Anderson to be the guy, and he is, and he'll probably be the high round draft, or he'll be the higher draft pick. But I think that BJ made himself a lot of money this season by, just showing that he can do more than just go get the quarterback. And now that's a huge premium in the NFL, but versatility that he showed he has is only going to do him a lot of good. I think that he'll be he'll be remembered for a long time at LSU. The 3 years that he was here was unfortunate, right? I mean, he came in the class that was recruited off of the national championship. In 2020, he came in that class with Kayshawn and crew. And really, you thought that this class was going to see a lot of success, and they did not, right? I mean, that was kind of like Eli Ricks and Kayshawn and B.J. Ojulari, and those were guys that you knew were frontline recruits. And Ojulari and Kayshawn obviously played out, even Eli Ricks early on, but it did not translate into wins for this recruiting class as much as this season did, right? I mean, they were able to. It's good to see a kid like B.J. Ojulari have an experience of going to Atlanta while at LSU to play for an SEC title. Now, he didn't win the game, but just to be a part of a team that experienced that type of success was good to see for a guy like Ojulari, because he just, he was here during a very chaotic time at LSU. You thought you were signing up for something, and you got something else. I mean, if you were a recruit, if you were a senior in high school in 2019 and you were looking at LSU, they were the model program of college football. If you showed up in 2020 as a freshman, it was nothing of what it looked like, a couple of months before that. It was just very, it was in turmoil. It was just, there was a lot going on, and guys like Kayshawn and B.J. Ojulari were able to kind of rise above that and still produce on the field, even though you could see that their team was struggling. You could see that the talent was there, and for it to all come together here this season for a kid like BJ and this crew was cool. So obviously pulling for him throughout his professional journey and beyond, and always will be grateful for what he did for our show, man. I mean, B.J. Ojulari was the first person that I reached out to when we started the Jordy Culotta show, and thinking that we needed to create some traction in an NIL world, to bring our show credibility. We were leaving a corporate organization that comes with credibility behind a show's name. When you get out there and you start to do an independent, you have to build that credibility. And having guys like Kayshawn and BJ on, early on for us was very influential and very instrumental in our growth. And I was always taken back of just how positive and how
polished,
yes, and just how smart BJ was, man. I mean, he would come over on a Sunday night after a Saturday night of just, brutal football and talk about it. And, would always represent him and himself in the program to the highest class. So I love B.J. Ojulari, man. So I'm always going to be pulling for him, and hopefully he has tremendous success in the NFL.
And it doesn't feel like it's one of the LSU guys when you talk about, like, when you see him get to the league, like, damn, where was that when he was at LSU?
Oh, no.
Like Daniil Hunter, it's like, no, he showed you everything that he could pretty much, like, he played as well for LSU as what you would expect. He's not going to be, and because I do think when he gets to the league, it's going to be like flash, and people are going to be like, oh, wait, where did he go? And it's like, yeah, he was doing that for 3 years for LSU when they weren't good. And for him to be able to kind of just put my head down and go to work whenever it's like in the age of a transfer portal or an NIL deal, he was like, no, I'm a Tiger.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what makes you love LSU and Baton Rouge. And like, that's the consummate like representation of what you want of your program.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think that, you pull for B.J. Ojulari just because of the person that he is. The fact that he loves football and loves LSU is cool to it. But I mean, he will definitely be successful. All right, some other football news from the weekend outside of Ojulari and LSU. We tweeted a little bit about it on Friday. We weren't here Friday, But the news about transfer portal and recruits, obviously Shea Dixon is here weekly breaking down what's going on. National Signing Day coming up here in about 48 hours, the early signing period. So we'll have a flutter of news coming in on big time guys like Taviano is supposed to announce on Wednesday night. You'll start to see a lot of names. You'll also start to see some things from the transfer portal start to happen. There has been a lot of interest and intrigue around the name of Denver Harris over the last couple of weeks, right? Especially here in Baton Rouge. We've told the backstory many a times. His stepdad, Tack Miner, went to LSU, played basketball for the program, was a part of that 06 Final Four team. He was injured on that squad, but he was here and absolutely loves LSU, will always love LSU, enjoyed his time at LSU, and comes back regularly. In fact, Tack married Denver's mom when Denver was an infant. So they have been coming back to LSU games since Denver was a kid, right? So he has seen many a Saturday nights in Tiger Stadium. He's seen many of the players of DBU come through LSU, and has seen his recruitment when he was in high school get to a 5-star status and get to a point where he was the top cornerback in the country coming out of Houston. He always wanted to go to LSU. If Corey Raymond was still on LSU's campus, the relationship that Raymond was able to build with Denver Harris through recruiting was as firm and was as solid as any coach-recruit relationship that LSU – I mean, it was Fournette, Frank Wilson type stuff. It was kind of a just unbreakable bond. Denver didn't know anything about Florida. He never took a trip to Florida. He never had Florida on the radar. So when Corey went to Florida, he just was like, look, man, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the coach, the facility, all of it, the town. I'm just not going to do it. Texas A&M comes with an offer that, look, it's money that they put in front of their face. They take the money. They go to A&M. It doesn't work out. Goes into the transfer portal as soon as the season goes final. There's a lot of questions around Denver Harris on not the football player. Football player stuff speaks for itself. You turn on the recruiting highlight while he was back in Houston in high school. He is a standout for the first 6 games of his college freshman season. He was at the midway point by many of the associations named freshman All-American at that point. He was probably the best freshman corner in the country. Now, some things off the field went down with Denver Harris that we have detailed and that you can easily find. Now, stuff you're not proud of. And stuff as a football coach, if you're implementing a program like Brian Kelly is, where he's, steadily constructing the building blocks of what this program is going to be stabilized on, then a kid like Denver Harris is going to have to pass an interview process. He's going to have to, really enlighten the coaches on what's been up, answer questions, look them in the eye. Now, over the weekend, I can tell you with certainty, going into the weekend, some of the LSU staff members met with Denver Harris and their family. And through the first meeting of the staff that they sent over, including Matt House, the defensive coordinator, that was a really good meeting. I mean, everybody was good. Everybody was solid. Everybody appreciated what was talked about. Everybody appreciated what was said. Everybody appreciated the questions that were answered. Now, Harris, his family, will load up and come to Baton Rouge this week at some point, and they will have that meeting with Brian Kelly. And Brian Kelly will decide whether or not Denver Harris is a take. And if I had to, obviously I don't know what Kelly thinks about Harris or his feeling on him, but I do look at LSU's defense, and I do see a couple of vacancies at the defensive backfield, including cornerback, where the football player in Denver Harris would step in and play pretty fast, or at least give you extreme quality depth at that position, right? So I think the football questions have already been answered. If he can pass the interview process through the head coach of just the person, then Denver Harris will be an LSU Tiger by the weekend. I believe that. But that sit down is what it hinges upon. And that sit down is coming later this week. And like I said, if I'm just giving my account of it, or if I'm giving my feeling on it, I think Brian Kelly knows that he needs Denver Harris, the football player. I also think that Brian Kelly has really, in just covering him for a year, really takes on the part of coaching / teaching, developing very serious. And somebody like Denver Harris needs development. He needs maturity. He needs accountability. To me, he's a perfect fit for what LSU is building right now. A success story waiting to happen, right? Somebody that is really looking for boundaries and discipline. And if you look at LSU over the last year under Brian Kelly, that's exactly what they've built. They have built very much a disciplined, accountable program, which was lacking before Kelly got here. And it feels, as we've made, just looking at the Texas A&M and reading the press clippings from over here in Baton Rouge and getting a feel of what's going on in College Station, it feels very LSU-ish over the last decade, right? Where, they got a lot of good players, but they don't have a lot of rules. And, that's a recipe for disaster. Ask us. How many times have you seen it around here? Right? And then last season, I would give the Kayshawn example, because what Denver Harris has done, in the levels of crime is very, very petty. Extremely, extremely petty. Now, there's some decisions that you look at and say, what were you thinking there, man? What was going on? But, all in all, it's not as if we're talking about some rogue criminal here that at any point could blow the place up. I mean, you're talking about a 5-star cornerback who's 19 years old with maturity issues. If you're LSU, you've seen this guy before. And I would venture to say that so is Brian Kelly. And if you're Brian Kelly, this is why you came to the SEC. You couldn't get Denver Harris at Notre Dame. You just couldn't. There were too many loops that you had to jump through to get even a player of his caliber to South Bend. Why did you take the LSU job? So you could compete with the best in college football every Saturday. And to do that, you got to get the players. And Denver Harris is one of those guys. And like I said, pending the conversation between Brian Kelly and Harris and his family coming up later this week, that decision will be made.
It's almost like a job interview.
It very much is. It is.
Polo, button down. Just do it one day.
But, I think that this is a good place for Denver Harris. He's got friends here. He's got the respect of, just his really tack growing up here and being here from a kid standpoint and having the experience of all of that going on. This is where he's always wanted to be. This has not been any secret. That's not groundbreaking news. We were telling you that when he was going through the process, and you could hear it in Tack's voice. They always wanted to be here. Denver Harris always wanted to be here. But in the first year of an NIL world where you're seeing all this stuff happen and things are happening to people around you and money's coming in and, bright and shiny stuff is pulling up, and it's just, whoa.
A lot.
I thought I loved LSU. But now, in a second chance college football world, Harris gets one through the transfer portal and has a chance to get to where he ultimately always wanted to go. And like I said, pending a conversation with the leader of the program later this week, that decision will be made. I think that I know that the conversation between the staff members that went and sat with Harris went glowingly well from both sides.
Would A&M have taken him back if he was, you see the rare case where they hop in the portal and hop back out, like Miles Brennan, but he wasn't kicked off the team, for the,
he was not
want you.
He was, I can't answer whether or not he would be wanted back at A&M. I've never asked that question.
Okay.
But I know that they knew a while ago that they didn't want to go back.
Okay.
And whether that was from both
Both
sides?
sides, yeah. That's what I was just, it's obviously speculatory, but I was just wondering if he, has to find a new home or if it was a case of A&M would take me back, but I'm also in the portal, let's feel out my options here. I don't know if he was like, no, you're kicked off the team, you have to go play somewhere else.
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. Hour 2 coming up at you. We will talk to Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and The Advocate. Jeff sent out a tweet yesterday that had the NFL world buzzing with Sean Payton's future status. Payton is linked to a couple of jobs in the future, including the Chargers job. The Rams job kind of popped up over the weekend as one to maybe watch. People talking about trading Sean's McVay for Payton in Los Angeles. We've seen his name hovering around the Dallas job, but Jeff Duncan threw a little bit of a curveball into it over the weekend as he tweeted out that there is a possibility that Sean Payton could be entertaining the idea of coming back to New Orleans. The exact tweet read yesterday: people close to Sean Payton think he's going back into coaching in 2023. I asked one of them to rank where he'd most likely coach. He listed the Saints number 1. Duncan tweeted this yesterday at 8:29 a.m. on a Saints day off as Sean Payton's name continues to hover around the NFL world. I will tell you this, in covering New Orleans sports, just in having not as big of a presence, but a small presence down in that market, there is nobody with a better relationship with Sean Payton than Jeff Duncan. Nobody knows Payton or trusts Payton to a media member like Payton trusts Jeff Duncan. So if Duncan's tweeting that, if Duncan's saying that, that stuff's legit. That stuff's real. I know that. I'm not saying Sean Payton's coming back to coaching the Saints, but if Jeff Duncan's tweeting that, he's the author of his book. I mean, Duncan is the author of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees, how they rewrote the record book. But I mean, that came with a good relationship. So Jeff Duncan, we'll ask him next. He'll be here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
I remember telling them, hey, listen, my job here is to make sure that we bring, big time football to a small town environment, right? And so you see on movies sometimes about the way a town reacts to the football program and what it means to everybody, and that was the hopes and dreams that I had for the place. And so our kids take a distinct responsibility in wearing that Z on their helmet. It means a lot to them. And then on the flip side of that, our community does a tremendous job of supporting our program, supporting the athletic department, supporting our school as a whole. And there's really a great relationship there that's a lot of fun to be a part of.
Thank you for the access, man. Looking forward to tonight. We'll talk soon.
Coach, wait, before you go, fix your hair again one more time.
Look at him.
Let's go over here.
Look at him.
What do you think about that?
Game day,
what do you
baby.
think about that?
Game day. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, man. Great to see you. Thank you.
You too, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.
All right, man. There he is. There he is, my guy. David Brewerton checking in.
What does Harold Perkins do for this defense? What does he allow you guys to do?
Yeah, Perk, man, he's just so raw, man. Like, all he know how to do is make a play. But I love him. He brings a certain type of juice to the defense, and he's right alongside of me on the edge. He knows how to rush the edge. As a young guy, that's very valuable to the defense, being able to rush the edge. Making the quarterback step up. But yeah, they put him everywhere. Middle linebacker, outside rusher. Maybe sometimes he's going to be in a drop. So he's very versatile for our defense.
Question in that game. You're listening to the Jordy Culotta Show live on YouTube. Catch it every day, 7 to 9 a.m., wherever you have internet access.
My guy, the host of Mac and Cube.
You said you wanted me to close it out.
I listen to his pod every day on WJOX 94. I thought I was going to beat Charlie. I didn't. You were fantastic as always. Have a great call in Missouri. I'll see you soon, man.
Thanks, man. Good
Later.
talking to you, Jordy.
Always. There he is. Cole Kubelik, the absolute best. Don't overthink it, ABC. When you move to a primetime slot and the SEC is getting that billing, make this man the color commentator. He's the absolute best.
Ooh, I mean, what a pro.
What a pro. Make All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, second hour, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, just like we are every single day. Remember the truck selection that you can find at GEAUXChevrolet.com. If you're looking for a Silverado, Sierra, half-ton selections, get in touch with our friends over at Go Chevrolet. The Carpool Queen is here.
Morning.
Noah is here. Lloyd is here on this Monday morning. Good to see everybody. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please make sure and do that, as if you just hit that bell, you'll be notified when we go live. Got some programming coming your way today. Also got a programming note for you. Chopping It Up with Kador going to originate Wednesday this week. Not going to come up Monday. We will have our Will Wade podcast for you today that will air 1 o'clock? 1:30?
1 o'clock.
One-ish. One-ish.
Is
1
it
o'clock.
normally
I
one?
just asked Father Wade. Whatever he says is the
Yeah.
rule. Coach.
Father Wade. That's so weird.
Coach wants to talk a little about the late game strategy in which was it Cincinnati Xavier, where they took the technical foul. He also wants to talk about the Houston Alabama game, which was a classic on Saturday. So we'll be talking to Coach Wade this morning about the Will Wade podcast. Obviously, LSU with a huge win over the weekend.
Will he delve into more NBA? Like, can he give us some Pelicans takes?
Yeah, and obviously we'll
That
talk a
dunk.
little bit about Cam Thomas. Had a big day on.
I want him to talk
on
about that
Sunday.
dunk, Zion's dunk.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll talk all
that
about
was
that.
nuts. I've watched it over and over again.
I just saw it
Were
for
you
the
there?
first time this
No,
morning.
I've just watched it on social media over and over. I love it. It's amazing. But
It's
I know
incredible.
it's controversial, but it's amazing.
Katie, we'll lead the second hour off just like we led the first hour off, and this is a very somber morning here around college football and around the SEC, as it seems like one of the great personalities and one of the great minds and coaches in Mike Leach is fighting for his life in a Mississippi hospital right now. There are reports out there that he is in a very critical, dire situation, and that he needs a miracle right now to recover. Obviously, a lot of people in that part of the country. I'm not looking for anything official of what you've heard, but just some of the reaction I'd imagine that you have felt over the last 24 hours has been very real.
Wild. Yeah, they're saying he was at a Christmas party the day before, just normal like he always is with his personality out, like nothing at all wrong. And then Sunday morning, some type of medical emergency, sounds like a heart attack. He was at Oktibbeha County hospitals, and then transported him by ambulance to Jackson, which is a really good medical center there, and apparently got worse throughout the night. So I think it's really, really, really serious.
So, as we told you at the beginning of the show, make sure and please keep Mike Leach, his family, his friends, Leach's family, and the Mississippi State football and athletics community in your thoughts this morning, as it seems like Coach Leach is in a real battle for his life. here on this December Monday morning. So there was a lot of stuff happening in and around sports this weekend, and this was one of the stories that when I saw it come across the wire yesterday, you thought, no way, man. After just a real one of the great personalities that you'll ever cover. We interviewed him young in my radio day. Me and Derek Panamsky interviewed him, and it was probably about a 30-minute interview. And he's standing in the middle of a field.
Where was he coaching?
He's on a recruit. He was at Washington State.
Okay.
And he was in the middle of recruiting, and he's standing in the middle of like this open field where he is just catching this crosswind that is brutal.
And he doesn't give a shit.
He's telling,
of course not.
and into so much, just like Derek and I are just like, oh my God. Like even the people listening were like, I can't really hear what he's saying, but you got to keep going.
And Leach has no problem with that.
We were getting him going on like online dating and I mean like stuff that was just like
not what we called for.
Yes. I mean like we were so past the football stuff. I mean the football stuff was about a 9 or 10 minute interview and you could tell he was still like hanging around like wanting to talk.
Just
so I mean
talk to somebody.
we were just
like
we were just rolling, man. I mean like just throwing him stuff. And I mean, it got to a point where it was like, Coach, we have to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it
was
like,
hard out.
For as much as we would like to stay here and just, all right, guys, have a great day. You know, just click. Let me hangs the phone. You know what I mean? Like,
that's amazing.
It was like, I mean, we just like, did that just happen,
man?
I
didn't know you did that. Can I go back and listen?
It was
to that?
awesome. I'm sure we could find it somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure I ran into the crew of ESPN over the weekend. Cade Wasson. And Gordy Rush and the crew as they were
nervous,
crawling around the suites. But we could call Cade and probably get that interview, you know what I mean, or at least some type of audio from it.
Yeah,
Cade, I still have my key card.
Right here on SoundCloud.
Oh, you
is it
have
really?
it already?
Yeah, I found it.
Did you really?
It says Mike
wow.
Leach visits with Culotta and the Prince.
There it is. How long is that?
How old ago?
It says 17 minutes.
Yeah,
No.
but I'm telling you, we had to cut. It was unusable. Like 20 minutes of it was just like.
Oh my God.
He's like, and then he's like talking, and we're like, I don't know what he's saying.
I don't know what he's talking
I
about.
don't know what he's saying. But it was unreal, man. I mean, it
producer's
really was.
nightmare.
And there are probably hundreds of young radio hosts, podcasters out there with stories like that.
Definitely.
About Leach. That somebody just threw a phone in his ear and SID just said, hey, here's a Baton Rouge radio station. You know, just, hello, how are you?
Is it live?
You know what I mean? Like just, I mean, and we just went in for about everything. I mean,
What year was that, Noah?
It had to be like 13, 14.
That's great.
That's crazy because I mean,
says 7 years ago, so 15.
15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Listen to that.
Yeah, April 2015.
Yeah. I mean, like recruiting season.
Well,
He had nothing to do.
him.
He had nothing to do. You know what I mean? Like he had nowhere to go. I mean, it was as
Oh,
if.
Culotta, what are you talking about? These
Yeah,
high
I mean, he was
school
just like
kids?
sitting. I mean, it got to a point where I was like, all right, coach. Is that it? You know, like, all right, that's it, man. Have a good day. I mean, it was. So, you know, man, God be with Mike Leach and his family today, please, as it seems as if Leach is in a very critical state here. All right, let's go to New Orleans. As we said yesterday, social media was going haywire leading into the 12 o'clock kickoff. And Sean Payton's name continues to start to surface around here, continues to surface around the NFL weekends, or people are wondering where he's going to go. And our friend Jeff Duncan, who is over at The Advocate, tweeted out yesterday morning, right at about 8:30, to start the NFL Sunday. As we said, Duncan has great relationships down there in the New Orleans sports market, and you will not find a better one between media member and coach than Payton and Duncan. And Duncan tweeted out yesterday, people close to Sean Payton think he's going to coach in 2023. I asked one of them to rank where he'd most likely coach. He listed the Saints number 1. So this is obviously a story that we are going to follow up with and get our friend Jeff Duncan to comment on, and we link up with him here on this Monday morning. Jeff, Merry Christmas. Good morning. How are you?
Merry Christmas, Jordy. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I want to talk to you about the Pelicans, Zion, what's going on with the basketball team, but let's start off with the Saints. Obviously, your tweet yesterday morning, there's some people that are running with this now and looking like they're going in and digging into your story, and people are saying, oh, this seems to check out. What are you feeling on Payton here in his year out, and what could be next for him?
Well, I just wanted people to know, Jordy, I mean, look, we kind of turned the page on the 2022 season after that Bucks loss, right? I mean, that was kind of a do or die game to realistically think you had a playoff spot. And once I started doing more reporting after that game, talking to people close to Sean Payton, I've seen a lot of reporting done on it. I haven't seen anybody mention the New Orleans Saints as a possibility. And the people I was talking to think it's realistic. And I just wanted to make sure people understood that the door's not closed. I think a lot of people felt like when Sean walked away in January that he closed that chapter on his life and his career. And I don't sense that at all. I'm not saying he's going to return. I think it's still highly unlikely, but I think it's a possibility. And I don't think people knew that before this weekend.
In covering the team this season, do you get an idea of what his relationship is still with the franchise, with personalities, with people in the building?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he came back a few weeks ago. You know, he went out to the facility, spent time with Mickey Loomis. I know he spent time with Mickey Loomis away from the facility. I mean, they're still very good friends. Sean Payton has said repeatedly that his best friend in the business is Mickey Loomis. And I know that Gail Benson, the owner of the team, still highly respects him and tried to encourage him when he walked away, maybe to think about coming back down the road. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that could happen. I just think if you know the track record of Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson, they don't make quick, rash decisions. They are very much loyal supporters and value continuity and stability. So it would have to really go sideways here. And I think it's kind of gone sideways to some degree, but it would have to really, I think, bottom out in this last month for them to move on from Dennis Allen. But if it came to that, I think what people needed to know was that, yes, it would be a possibility that Sean Payton could come back if they decided to move on from Dennis Allen. Now, Sean Payton does not want anything bad to happen to Dennis Allen. Matter of fact, he's one of his biggest fans. He championed him for the job. So obviously he doesn't want that circumstance to play out. But if it did, I think people need to know that Sean Payton would be in play.
I have heard him on a podcast recently speak about Caleb Williams. He was speaking about just the type of player that Williams is, a generational type talent, and said that the NFL should almost institute the lottery policy in the draft because of a player like Williams. Is he looking for a specific situation, in your opinion, or just covering him? Does he have to have some things in place to make the choice of where he is next? Or what does he have to have in place to make that choice?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that's an important one to ask when considering where he might go. He's not going to a dysfunctional situation. Yeah. He has no reason to do that. He's going to go somewhere that has strong ownership, that has, I think, some infrastructure in place that he feels like you can be successful. I mean, one of his long quotes that I've used many times in my writing comes from Bill Parcells, who said, basically, there's about 10 or 12 organizations in the league that are competitive every year, that are functional organizations, and everybody else is kind of swimming in circles. And those organizations can rise up and maybe make the playoffs, maybe even make a Super Bowl run, but they're going to eventually fall back apart. He wants to be a part of those functional organizations, and I think that's what the Saints became with him and Mickey Loomis. And so I don't think it's necessarily as simple as saying he has to have a star quarterback. If you know Sean Payton, he's confident. Mm-hmm. He's the kind of guy that believes he'll go and attract a star quarterback there. He'll go find one. He did that here in 2006. So I don't think that's necessarily contingent upon where he goes. And I know a lot of people put two and two together saying, oh, he's going to go to the Los Angeles Chargers. And that, I would believe, would be a possibility just because he's living right now in Manhattan Beach. He's very happy out there on the West Coast. His main home right now is in Idaho, so he's kind of a West Coast-based guy. His daughter is living in L.A., so there's a lot of reasons to think he would want to go somewhere on the West Coast, but I don't think it's necessarily that's the only places he's looking. It's much more open than that.
We've heard teams been broken down and said they're a quarterback away. Where are the Saints when you look at this? They have routinely had one of the top rosters in football over the last couple of seasons. Where is that roster now, and where will it be in the immediate future, in your opinion?
Well, I think there's two different paths you're looking at. And NFL teams travel these two paths, and one of them is the short term. And I think short term right now, this team can still be competitive and be a playoff team. I'm not sure they can be a Super Bowl team without solving the quarterback question. And I don't think they've got it solved right now with either Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. So that is the number one priority for whoever is here. Dennis Allen, whether it's another coach down the road, they've got to figure out the quarterback situation. And I think overestimating that situation this past offseason's come back to haunt them this year. They moved on very quickly from Jameis Winston. That said a lot to me, how quickly they moved on from him. And then, look, long term, you've got to find who's the guy to carry this roster forward. This roster is very mature right now, but I do think it's in transition, Jordy, because you've got a lot of young, talented players here that's one silver lining to this season. Guys like Chris Olave, Caden Ellis, Pete Werner. There's a lot of reasons to feel good about some of the pieces to this puzzle, but the lack of first-round draft picks obviously a significant concern going forward.
One more on Payton, and I'll move on to Pelicans. We are for sure, or just you speak in almost certainty when saying that he'll coach next year, right?
Well, I think it's his top priority to coach next year. But if something doesn't develop, Jordy, that's advantageous to him, he's not going to run out and take it. He's happy. I think very happy at Fox. He's been playing a lot of golf. He's traveling. He's doing a lot of things that he's wanted to do and hasn't been able to do. So he's not going to just rush in and coach somewhere. And I think that's something that's also important to note. People have put these potential landing spots out there for him. The Cowboys, the Chargers. I'm not sure those jobs are going to open. And those are the kind of ones that he would pursue. I don't think he's going to run out. I've seen him mentioned with the Arizona Cardinals. He ain't going to the Arizona Cardinals. Right. I can tell you that. Right. So just eliminate that one.
Right. Jeff, you have been covering the Pelicans since they moved here as the Hornets. Do you ever remember an NBA weekend in December that meant as much as the one that just came and passed?
No. That was a lot of fun this past week with those two games against the Suns. I think that was a validation now for where the Pelicans stand. They're no longer, I think, pretenders. I think they're legitimate contenders. And I think we've seen this team mature in these last few weeks to where they now have an identity. They know their roles. I think they very much understand. That to me is one of the biggest strengths of this team is not only the depth that they now have, quality depth. They can absorb an off night by one of their stars and still be successful. But also their role players on this team are outstanding, and they know who they are, Jordy. They understand their role. They're not trying to be something they're not. And that's rare. It's hard to find. And I think we've also seen, and I tweeted this out yesterday, I mean, the emergence of Zion Williamson is the clear guy, right? He's the man. And I think he needed to make that step. He's always kind of danced around it, hasn't really taken this team by the throat. And I think we've seen him do that the last few weeks.
That statement he made at the end of Friday night was a welcome to the league. I mean, just to see everybody's reaction from around the league of how they took that. Can you remember a vibe turn like Griff and the front office have experienced? It feels like a year ago I was talking to you about just how toxic that situation felt from the upper office of the Pelicans. Now it seems like when you watch them play, they're almost like an orchestra out there in the way that they are put together and the way that they feel from a chemistry standpoint.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable turnaround. I think there's two reasons for that. One, obviously, Willie Green, that hire, you can't underestimate how important that was, getting the right man for that job at the right time with the right, this young roster, and then seeding C.J. McCollum into that roster, a veteran, a guy that's head of the Players Association. They needed an old head, if you will. They needed a veteran guy that these young players would look up to, but not be the dominant alpha personality. It had to be the right person. And I think with Willie Green and C.J. McCollum, now they have the veteran wisdom, the leadership needed with these young stars. And I think what we've seen now from Brandon Ingram and, of course, Zion Williamson. I mean, I think the future is incredibly bright. I wrote about this earlier. This is the first chance the Pelicans have had, I think, to have sustained success. They just haven't had it. They've had these zeniths where they go up and successful, in the next year it drops off immediately. This team is built for the long haul, and I think that's the reason fans are so encouraged. And what we're seeing right is even a little ahead of schedule with their development.
He is the author of Payton and Breeze, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. He's a great writer and a friend of ours. Read his stuff over at the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. He's on Twitter at @JeffDuncan_. Jeff, I just saw your text that came over about the phone call video. Sorry, I just saw it. Thanks for working with us, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, I'm in the front seat of my car. You got it, brother.
Later, buddy.
Wait. Before you go, do you ever get confused for Sean Payton? You look just like him.
I do not, but I do get confused for the wrong Jeff Duncan, who's, I think, a representative from South Carolina on Twitter all the time, and we have a lot of fun with that.
Change your policies, why don't you, Dunk?
Yeah.
Later, man.
I'll try.
All right, buddy.
Thanks
See
for
ya.
having me on, guys.
Always. You got it. There he is, Jeff Duncan checking in, man. If he's talking about Payton, odds are he's talking to Payton. So just keep that in mind when you're reading Jeff Duncan's stuff. And as we said, he tweeted yesterday about the possibility of Sean Payton returning not only to coaching, but returning to the sideline for the New Orleans Saints. As the tweet reads, yesterday morning at 8:30 a.m., people close to Sean Payton think he's going to coach in 2023. I asked one of them to rank where he'd most likely coach. He listed the Saints as the number one spot. We appreciate Duncan for stopping by here on this Monday morning. We'll come back. We'll talk more Pelicans coming up here at 8:30 this morning. In about 10 minutes, Erin Summers, who covers the Saints and the Pelicans, will be here. She'll talk to us about this Pelicans team and just the evolution over the last couple of weeks and months to put them in the spot of where they are right now. They feel as if they are the top team in the West. They feel like a true NBA contender as they just went 2-0 versus the Phoenix Suns this weekend with emphatic dunks by Zion and plays throughout the roster. We'll talk all about that with Erin Summers coming up here in a couple of minutes. Don't forget, Daily, we're brought to you by Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Our friends over at Barker Brothers can help you today. They're number one and a number two business over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. You can get in touch with them by simply calling them. No website, no social media, easy to get in touch with 776-2431, 225-776-2431. Mention the show and save yourself 15% over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. They can help you out with an expansion. Remember, get in touch with them today. 225-776-2431. Mention the show, save 15%. We'll back with more Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Southern Eye Centers, located at 6859 Jefferson Highway right here in Baton Rouge, has been serving your eyes for over 40 years in the capital region. They offer friendly service in a helpful environment with the highest level of personal care to manage your eye health and vision needs. If you want more information, log online to southernyecenters.com. That is southernyecenters.com. Stop in and check out their beautiful office located on Jefferson Highway right here in the capital city. And remember, each time you walk in there and you mention the Jordy Culotta Show, Dr. Ann Shaw and Southern Eye Centers will take 25% off of their fantastic selection of sunglasses. All you got to do is mention the Jordy Culotta Show. Check them out. southernyecenters.com and located at 6859 Jefferson Highway.
Looking to book a dumpster but no idea how? We've made it quick and easy for you. Check out our website at moralesrolloffs.com. Let Morales Roll-Offs know your desired delivery date, and finally, provide your contact details. To make payment, look out for an email invoice with all your booking details. On delivery day, our driver will notify you through text and email that your dumpster is ready and on the way. Now you know how easy and convenient it is. Call Morales Roll-Offs at 225-427-0000 for your dumpster.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier, Kyron Lacy, Greg Brooks.
Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team. Make a difference. Bet. Let's get it done.
Hey Baton Rouge, when traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, whether you need to fill up your vehicle or your belly, stop by Go-Mart and On The Go Deli. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you might need on your trip. So stop by Go-Mart at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left, and visit Tom and Wright Granning and their awesome team at Go-Mart.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team. Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, live here on this Monday morning. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We mentioned a little bit about Caleb Williams when talking about Sean Payton. Payton was on, what podcast? Was it Rich Eisen?
I thought it was Tom Brady's.
It was Tom Brady's. You're exactly right. It was Tom Brady's. It was Let's
Bring him
Go
to New Orleans.
with Jim Gray, and he was talking about Caleb Williams
Jim Gray.
being a generational talent over the weekend. Southern California quarterback Williams won the Heisman Trophy up in New York City. He's a sophomore from Maryland. He entered his first season with USC as expectations were high on Williams, and he produced, man. He received 544 first-place votes. He finished ahead of Max Duggan from TCU, ahead of C.J. Stroud, and Stetson Bennett finished in fourth in voting.
Did you see Stetson?
I think that
Where's
was
Letterman?
deserving. I like the way it played out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think that's probably
You see Stetson wears a Letterman jacket, like the ultimate Stetson Bennett move. Like
Oh
he just thinks he's in high school.
He really does.
Hilarious.
Can I get a 7th year?
If he could,
The thing
would.
about high
No
school,
doubt he would. No doubt he would. Are you kidding me?
The thing about college kids.
Back when I won the national championship.
I'm gonna run against Herschel Walker.
Poor little fella.
I mean,
Poor little fella.
He's gonna get a statue.
Vince Dooley was his coach.
I was running the veer.
But yeah, I mean,
Did Caleb Williams paint his fingernails?
Who is the
for
backup
Heisman?
quarterback? Do they have a backup? I mean, I know they do, but I mean, like, is he a
don't
4
even know who it
or a
is,
5-star guy? You would think Georgia is recruiting at like a level now
I never heard about his backup.
where they can. I know,
Who is it?
Where they can
Because
get.
Stetson will never get hurt.
No.
That's true.
Or he's not going to give up a
That's
snap.
true.
Can't take him out. I mean, it
That's so true.
was JT Daniels.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The Portal King.
Daniels is now, he's on a college tour. He's just college touring the country, writing reviews on campuses and football programs.
The Yelper.
Can't play.
They have Brock Vandegrift, who
Oh my God, it's the same person.
Who was a 5-star in the class of 21.
That's the backup.
Brock Vandergrift.
Fuck
Brock
Georgia
Vandergrift.
so much.
I mean, O'Dole
That's him.
Rules, yeah.
He's a ginger.
Where's he from?
Do you know who my dad
Georgia.
is?
Okay.
But he was a 5-star. They have a 5-star backup.
Wait, so what
Stetson
year?
Bennett.
What year was
What?
that? What
That
year
was
is he?
I think
So he's a
2021.
He's a
so
redshirt freshman right
redshirt
now.
Okay.
freshman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be his 3rd year before he takes a meaningful snap.
JT, where are we going? Yeah, I can't take him out. He keeps winning. This guy's probably just throwing
dropping the
seeds
mic.
back there. Yeah. Oh, get. You're not Joe Burrow, Cat. Letterman
It's
jacket.
weird.
Letterman jacket.
It is awesome.
I mean, good for him, but
But
it
for
is
lettering
weird.
at Georgia, it took him
I
6
still
years to
think-
get there.
I still think Hendon Hooker should have got that 4th spot.
He definitely should have
Yeah.
been invited. He definitely should have been invited. I agree with that. All right, how was the weekend, Carpool Queen?
It was very busy. We got a lot of stress with exams going on around our house.
She's happy to
and
be
with
here.
construction, they don't really have many places to study. So
Eesh, the old coffee shop.
oh,
If
the
that's what we were
library's
talking about
closed.
when you were gone. You're probably where I was. There's no way you were a library kid. Like,
No way.
In college.
Way too quiet.
That's what I'm just distracting people. I know what's
right.
happening here. I'm
I was
sorry.
a coffee shop guy.
Yeah.
But
I
you
saw,
can-
I saw
now you can
openings for
study in
social
groups
interaction.
At the library. It works.
People are all
You
hopped
can
up
rent
on
rooms
coffee.
at the library and study in groups in there now. Like
Yeah.
they have those little glass rooms, so you can have like a group.
that-
That's what they've been doing this weekend.
You you close the blinds?
No.
Keep an eye out for. We're gonna talk
She's
more.
here. She's here.
All right, sweet. We're going to talk more Pelicans here. As we talked a little bit about it with Jeff Duncan, who we said is down there at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune. But we're going to talk specifically some Pels here with the team reporter. She's also a team reporter with the Saints. She is team reporter with the Pelicans. You can see her down on the sidelines routinely down there at the Smoothie King Center. It is Erin Summers who's joining us here on this Monday morning to talk a little bit about the weekend for the New Orleans Pelicans. Erin, thank you for joining us. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. What a weekend for the Pelicans.
Incredible
7
weekend.
in a row. It's crazy.
We asked Jeff this, Erin, and maybe you can answer this too. Have you felt a vibe turn, not only like David Griffin and the front office have experienced over the last year, but really just kind of the franchise, right? Because we were having this interview a year ago with Jeff, and I mean, it just felt like a very toxic situation. There was no Zion, all the stuff that was against the franchise to where they are now. Can you account for the last year of how they got here?
Well, I'll put it this way. I was at the grocery store yesterday after the game, and I was wearing a Pelicans hoodie, and I had 2 different people stop me and talk to me about the Pelicans, ask me if I went to the game, talk about how great the weekend was, how much they're looking forward to Pelicans basketball, especially with the way things have gone on the Saints side.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a football city here. Saints have definitely been the predominant team. But I think we're starting to see a shift where people are noticing about the Pelicans. They're on board. They're showing up at the Smoothie King Center. You can feel it in the city. And it did start with the team, because last season when this team was 3-16, nobody on that team and nobody that saw them practice would have thought that. This team has always believed, and it's because of that, because of what Coach Green has instilled in them, that they've been able to put in the work and get to where they are right now. I mean, there was a greater vision as far as who they drafted. We've seen that in some of the younger players. They have come in and they've been productive, but it's because of that work and that belief that they've had in themselves.
What have you made of Zion's turn here? Back-to-back games where he scores 35, his career high in the NBA this weekend in both outputs. What is your vantage point of him right now and how he's playing?
We've always known that Zion Williamson can be what we saw this weekend. It was just a matter of him being healthy, being comfortable with the team, and being back to that shape conditioning wise. I think we knew that that's what he's accomplished in the past. Everybody was questioning whether he would get there that quickly because of missing an entire year and some change of playing, competitive basketball. He came in a little bit slower, but it was more because he just was getting familiar with the system and getting familiar with a lot of new teammates. I've watched him over the past couple weeks, and he's now the one that's on the court telling people where to go and what to do. And that just speaks to the level of comfortability he has and the leadership in him starting to come through. I think that is allowing him to just be more relaxed and kind of just play basketball the way that he does. I mean, he's such a force. It's incredible to watch him play, but it's just that confidence that he's continually gaining in himself and those around him that's translating to some really good basketball.
Ingram was out yesterday. Herb Jones was out yesterday. Have you had a chance to see them at full strength and what they could possibly look like when they are at full arsenal, when they have everybody, because they feel like a really deep team? And for them to beat Phoenix without one of their top scorers and without one, obviously their best defender, feels like something. Have you seen them at full strength, and what can they potentially be?
I don't think any of us have seen them at full strength yet because there have been various injuries throughout the start of this season. And like I said, all of them having to get used to having somebody like Zion on the court. I mean, he is going to draw so much attention that it's going to take a little while for them to figure that out. And seeing him be somebody that's bringing the ball down the court, facilitating the offense pretty often, changes the dynamic of that team. So it's going to take a little while for them to reach their full potential once Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones come back. But if you think about it, the way that they've dominated these games, and we saw, CJ McCollum he had a great game yesterday in himself, 29 points. To see him kind of hit his stride coming back from his sickness, he was dealing with just being under the weather, and then he had COVID. It's cool to see Zion be what he is, and then have somebody else also get 29 points, because Zion had 35. And then there was probably 4 or 5 other players that were in double figures. So this team can be very dominant offensively. And then you add in somebody like Brandon Ingram. Where are the minutes going to come from? Yeah. Because Dyson Daniels has shown that he is very effective, and Trey Murphy has stepped in that starting role and done well with his minutes as well.
Can you talk about the relationship between Jose Alvarado and Chris Paul? I mean, it seems like this is like, professional Bravo, bro. I mean, like every time they get together, there is so much drama. I mean, why is it like this?
I love it. I think it's because they're two guys that have been counted out their entire lives because of their size. They are smaller. They've had to fight harder for where they're at. They carry a chip on their shoulder. And you see, this is who Chris Paul has been his entire career. Yeah. I remember watching him at Wake Forest. There was the incident where he punched somebody below the belt. It was NCAA player Julius Hodge. He was suspended for a game. The ACC actually suspended him for a game for doing that. And it's not stopped him from continuing to do it throughout his career. Jose Alvarado got one in the playoffs last season. So it's just kind of how he's been. And I think that he's met his nemesis in Jose Alvarado, because Jose's not going to back down. And he's shown that from the minute he stepped on the court. He's proven himself. He's feisty. He's had to fight for what he's gotten. It's a great rivalry. I love it. Jose said after the game on Friday, there was no way he wasn't going to play if a certain person was playing. He won't even call him by his name. It's awesome.
I love that. I love the pettiness of it, the professional level, bro. So why is this team? We're biased. Obviously, you and I, we're in it, and I think we would like whoever they rolled out on the floor. But why is this team so likable? It seems like the Saints early on, when they were hitting their run, like back in 06, 07, 08, the country really kind of fell in love with the Saints. It feels like the same sentiment around the Pelicans, like they're an easy, likable team to watch.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the Saints went through the tragedy of Katrina, and the city had gone through so much that they had something to rally behind, something that they could all get together and take them away from that moment in their life, the reality of where they were at, and they could enjoy football. And the Saints brought them winning football. So that was something that really drove that time period. For this team, I think it's the way that this team has fought from the past few seasons, multiple coaches, and then the way the season started last year. You have a bunch of players on that team that were unknowns. Brandon Ingram was really the only guy on that team after Zion Williamson got hurt that people would recognize. So for that group to be able to pull together, and the message that Willie Green has provided from the beginning, that they're resilient, that they mimic this city, the resiliency of that time, like I mentioned, when they went through Katrina and some of the other, devastating storms that they've had in this area. The fact that they are able to fight through moments where people counted them out and get to where they are now, I think is something that the city really can relate to. And you have personalities on that team, and they just do it the right way. Yeah. They're fun. They embrace the culture of this city. They embrace the people. You see them out and about. They talk about how much they love New Orleans. And I think that's going to resonate with anybody that's from this area.
All right, so it's not even Christmas yet, which is a little taboo in the NBA to talk about what's going on in standings and what's going on with the team. But This is a December weekend that I think Pelicans fans will remember for a long time. How sustainable is this into the second half of the season, deep into the summer? When you look at this group, are they built for longevity?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. They didn't have Brandon Ingram. They didn't have Herb Jones, 2 starters, and they were able to do this. So you talk about the depth that this team has, the minutes that the backups have been able to get during this time where they've had injuries. That is going to pay dividends when they get to the playoffs, when you're playing every other day and you're playing tough games and you're battling. Those minutes are going to come in key. You're going to have people that are able to step up and provide that boost off the bench like we've seen from this team. I mean, over the past 2 games, they had an average of 60 points off the bench. That's incredible. And then you add in who was your best scorer on the team and Brandon Ingram back. I think they're definitely built for a long run in the postseason. They're number 1 in the Western Conference now. They were before this week, and they only solidified that. They've shown that they're going to fight on the defensive end, which I think is going to be the difference maker for them. Offensively, we know it's going to come. It's going to be, are they able to bring it every single game? And they really can't take any reps off. And I think they're realizing that they're going to have to play tough on the defensive end, and we have guys on this team who are willing to do that. Zion Williamson has stepped up in that role. CJ McCollum has stepped up. Devontae Graham, people that you may have counted out on the defensive end and not said that they were as good as some of the other players on the team. Nobody's going to be as good as Herb Jones, and nobody's going to be as good as Dyson Daniels is, but they've definitely done their part. I think that's going to be key. So, yeah, I mean, they might not stay number 1 throughout the entire rest of the season, but I think they're definitely in it for the long haul.
All right, she's all over the place. You can watch her with the Saints, with the Pelicans. She's with Bally Sports, ESPN, ACC Network. She's all over Twitter. Just hit her there. Erin E. Summers is the easiest way to keep up with her on social media. Thank you so much, Erin. Keep up the great work. We'll be checking in again soon.
Sounds great. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
All right, thank you. There she is, Erin Summers, talking a little Pels here as the Pels go undefeated this weekend versus Phoenix, sit atop of the Western Conference. They will travel to Utah on Tuesday night to take on the Jazz, but a very exciting time to be a Pelicans fan. Obviously, it's very early. Christmas hadn't even hit yet. That means, not a lot of people start paying attention to the NBA till after Christmas, but Pelicans are doing some pretty special things right now if you're paying attention. Katie's Restaurant, speaking of New Orleans, you can find Katie's Restaurant down in New Orleans on Iberville Street, tucked in neighborhood bar restaurant. Great to get in there, experience the menu. They got great selections on the menu, including St. Louis style pizza that you can choose from, thin crust pizza. If you want to stop in and see them today over at Katie's Restaurant since 1984. Easy to shop the menu online, katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. Ran into a couple of people from the Dome on Friday from Dunham that were from Baton Rouge looking for a place to eat, and told them to go hit up Katie's Restaurant if they wanted to experience the taste of New Orleans, the feel of New Orleans, the vibe of New Orleans. It's a great spot, man. Katie's Restaurant over on Iberville Street. Find out the menu if you're traveling into New Orleans. If you're over in the city and you're looking for a great selection today, check them out. katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. All right, I appreciate Erin Summers for stopping by, talking some Pels. Jeff Duncan for swinging through here and talking some New Orleans Saints and some Pelicans, as the Saints and Pelicans are right now looking headed in different directions for sure. But as Duncan said, long shot, but a possibility that Payton, Sean Payton, could possibly return to the sidelines in the Big Easy. It would be crazy. But as Duncan said yesterday, it is something that could happen. It's not impossible. So a lot of people will be paying attention to that as well. Some other NFL news yesterday. How about the Cincinnati Bengals make it a 5th straight as Joe Burrow and the Bengals beat Cleveland, the first time that Joe Burrow as the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback has defeated the Cleveland Browns, which is crazy to say out loud. He's 3-0 versus Patrick Mahomes, and he was 0 versus the Browns until yesterday.
Easy money.
Joey B threw for 240, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick yesterday. Jamar Chase, 10 catches, 119 yards, and a score.
And a broken hip.
You said he was hurt.
heard of the guy.
Deshaun Watson threw his first touchdown pass of the season for Cleveland. He had an interception as well, but all around it was a nice performance by Cincinnati. Defense was playing up to speed as well as Joey and the boys. So Cincinnati looking like they're trying to catch their second half momentum as we're building towards the playoff push here in the NFL.
If Sean Payton is so dead set on coaching next year, are there going to be teams that you see move away from coaches that are successful to where they're like, well,
I would think so.
I
would think so. I think that Cincinnati would be a great example of that.
That's what made my brain start kind of turning a little bit.
I don't know if Sean Payton wants to go live in Cincinnati, if he wants to go live in the snow or in the cold weather. But I think that Cincinnati would be a great example of someone who is contenders, but could use an upgrade.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, went to the Super Bowl last year, but it would be an easy, in my mind, be like, Zach, thank you for all you've done. Sean, doors right here.
Well, I think people that watch the Cincinnati offense look at it and say they just put so much pressure on the quarterback. There's not a lot of easy, schematic type throws that he makes. It's a lot of one-on-one. It's a lot of where's Jamar at? Find him if he's not open. See what we can't make happen. And luckily, Burrow is just, he's enough of a whiz at the position.
What a gift!
Oh God, covers up everything. Ask Ed O.
That's what I'm saying. You would just walk into the building and be like, y'all okay in
think
here?
About,
all good? All right.
Think about think about Zach Taylor without Joe Burrow. Think about Ed Ojulari without Joe Burrow. What he is. He is an epic failure as a college head football coach.
Yikes. That's harsh.
Really though?
I know. It's harsh though to say it out loud.
His head coaching stints would have been Ole Miss and LSU. Yeah. Take Burrow out of the mix.
I know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I didn't really think about it like that before.
Think if he's playing
20 and 21.
Justin McMillan. You know what I mean? I love Justin McMillan. But, it was tough for him to succeed at Tulane.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow came in here and covered up all of the warts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Saved our lives.
Literally.
Of that $17 million, Eddie O should be sending him at least a cut. You know what I mean?
I'm sure.
And Joe Burrow was trying to get him the job for life. Give him a lifetime contract.
He's the best agent he's ever had.
He did give him a lifetime contract. There you go. There you go. Joe, you were kind of right on that too. But I'm sure he loved Ed because he didn't. It's probably the same thing with Zach Taylor. It's like, get out my way. A little bit, trust me enough to run
absolutely.
the show.
Right.
I don't think Ed did that on purpose. I think Joe kind of saw an opening. It was like, I can do whatever I want.
Joe Brady was great for Joe Burrow at LSU. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a Joe Brady at Cincinnati with Burrow. I think Zach Taylor's supposed to be that guy, and I think just by the things that I see and just by the things that we hear within coaching communities, it looks as if Burrow looks at Taylor and says, "Give me the marker.
Keys.
Let me." Let me teach
my
headset mic's not working.
I got it.
He even knew who the official was. He's like, oh yeah, you were there too. Whenever I did this, and he was like, that's impressive. He's like, kind of do it every time.
He's got legitimate. Like Joe Brady told me, he's like the great quarterbacks have legitimate photographic memories. Who was it? Brad Johnson that came on here.
Oh my God.
Remember when he was breaking?
Yeah.
He was remembers specific play calls. In 1996.
In the third down. We ran and we were like, what? Okay, y'all are different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Brad doesn't get that. Obviously, relied on a great defense, but even at that level, to be a Brad Johnson where it's 14 of 24 for 180 yards and a touchdown. It's it's not impressive, but he still has that recall. But sometimes you just marry both with Joe Burrow just sounds like, and I'm extremely athletic.
Even coaches
and hot
have that.
And new teeth.
Whatever.
Right?
Shout out Johnson Spillers.
Yeah. He can tell you a play.
Could you imagine the recall on Sean Payton? If you got him in some really junky football talk. You know what I mean? Coach, close the door. We got a bunch of football guys here.
Saints Falcons 2010 third down, third quarter.
Third quarter, 3:08 left in the game. I call in, zip right, X-Pie, Reggie Bush went right, and he's supposed to go left.
Got folded.
Just the stuff that when you get the football guys going, on their photographic memories, it's a flex. It's all.
What they said and this is a weird one to compare it to, but they said the same thing about Baker, wherever he was able, Sean McVay was like, oh, you're a guy. Like, you're able to learn from Tuesday to Thursday. Like, he gave him, like, a certain amount of plays or whatever, and he was like, okay, I can work with this. Like, that's why you saw him come in that fast, because Sean McVay was like, I trust you.
Yeah.
Like, even though, and that's what I'm saying, it's weird to say, like, oh, he has a photographic memory. But it's like they know it so well to where even a guy like Baker, who's mercurial and people don't really trust, like, no, I know football.
Yeah.
Just don't let me he got tracked down by a cop. Like, you got to be able to break that tackle.
That was a hell of a tackle. That was a hell of a tackle by that guy.
Sign him.
I mean, he had like the buzz cut shoulder. I mean, like
he's been waiting for
he
this
had the
moment.
tight tuck.
Yeah.
Yes, he was waiting on him to take off.
Got the leather jacket.
He
in the
still
car.
talks about that.
No doubt.
Hey, new guy, you seen that Baker video?
Sacked the Heisman winner.
Yes, I've seen it. For God's sakes, bull.
Don't you have
Doesn't he look like a bull?
No doubt.
Yeah. I thought you did.
I mean,
Is
I have
it you?
a very
Photographic memory?
No,
very
does.
good
That's what I
memory,
thought.
but it's
not photographic?
But I mean, it's pretty.
I would give anything for that. Wouldn't y'all?
I can remember most
Wouldn't you
things,
love to
yeah.
have a photographic
I
memory?
can recall certain things, but is a
Yeah.
photographic memory that you can recall everything?
I don't know about everything. I just know like
If
like
certain
for
things that you
yeah,
can-
like
yeah.
for studying, for
Well, I
instance,
would
like
say,
it's so much
like,
easier for testing.
If you only took like a test on like early LSU football, they'd be
Oh,
like, Jordy's the smartest kid I've ever met.
Yeah, for sure.
Photographic memory.
That's what I'm saying. Certain things where it's just
Right.
like it sticks.
But you
So-
like see things and recall
so
them
like for
easily, right? You can
studying,
see the notes
Studying,
in your head.
I just rewrite it.
Yeah.
And then I take the test.
Yeah.
But you can remember it once
Yeah.
you...
So once I rewrite it, it's in there.
Oh,
See,
wow.
I rewrite it
What a
too,
tool.
I want
but then
that.
I bring it with me and then I look at it.
And Sophie's chemistry
type it
teacher
into
gave
my
them
iPhone.
a quarter
I did
of a
on my
note
Apple Watch,
card
Coach.
that they can use to study with, that they can bring to the
fill it
exam. A
up.
quarter of a note card.
Yeah, we used to get.
So I
sticky
walked her
notes.
through it. I was like, okay, you type it out in the smallest font possible and wear your glasses and then pull your glasses and
Magnify.
kind of use them as a magnifier. And she's like, that's a great idea. And I was like, wait, is that bad though? Like,
No.
Thank you, Mom.
Well,
Mom, you're the best.
and you can do a note card where you tape them together, make it double-sided, open it up, and now you have 4 pages.
she would never.
Wow.
She would die before she
Look
did
at
that.
I mean,
What a photographic memory.
hey, there's street smarts and book smarts, Coach. I'm gonna get
Right?
through this thing. Like, I took my, I don't care about my master's degree. Like, I put everything on my Apple Watch and was just looking at my
Are you
notes.
serious? They
Yeah.
let you have it in there?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
didn't
now
know.
you
I
have
just
to take them
wore a hoodie.
No way.
And I just put all of my notes on my Apple Watch, and you can zoom. And I was
I
just
don't
How
know.
frustrating for teachers of
I
technology.
know.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I remember when like a Texas Instrument calculator was a cheating.
Oh, that was the
You
best.
could put your notes under in
With
the
the
case
notes under the
underneath.
case.
Yes.
And you could,
Right?
and you can type into it if you like really want to get into the TI-84.
yeah,
There's a
you
notes
could.
page. In
You
there.
Golly, look at this guy.
Maybe I should have just fucking studied.
I know. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean,
effort.
You got a TI 84 or 87?
Yeah.
84, I can pass the exam
Yeah.
for you.
I can get you into
87, I can
Harvard.
get you out of a quiz.
Now professors just play it one of two ways. They either send you to the testing center where they got proctors sitting on every row, so you really can't do anything, or they just
disagree,
say they just say forget it and let you take it on at
Yeah,
home.
right.
And they're just like,
Really?
We're not going to
Yeah.
stop this.
I had
Jeez.
2 of my finals was just
At
Are you
home?
take it
serious?
whenever.
Oh my
They
god.
open it up
That's
from
amazing.
Monday to Saturday, and you can just take it at home.
What? That never happened to me.
Yeah.
No.
What subject?
Huh? It's like the mass comm stuff, like media, business stuff.
Why are you looking at me like I'm going to bail you out? I don't know.
So like you can like take the exam like open book. I mean,
Basically,
I mean, golly, if you fail that, coach,
I know.
drop
That's
out.
what they're
Right?
saying. They're like, here, dude,
Yeah,
if you don't
right.
even take the test,
I mean,
it's kind of on you at this point.
sheesh.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But for all the students
Wow.
out there, if you're in the testing center and you do get nervous, you can see the computer directly in front of
Yeah.
yours. There's a privacy screen, but the one
you can
right
still
in
see
front
Yeah,
of you.
but I mean, aren't the questions different?
Yeah, but you can line them up there.
Well, but
A
now
little staggered.
now they
Jeez,
have
you got
like,
it.
Lord.
you're not all taking the same exam. Like you're in a group
Right.
with people taking other exams.
Golly.
Like so you don't know if the person in front of you
The
is taking
links
the same
they'll
one or
go
not.
to,
That's
man.
how they do it.
They
Yeah.
just want to.
Still didn't get me.
What's the workaround now?
Yeah, catch me if you can. The workarounds, I'm coming back next semester. Damn it.
All right, I appreciate you being here. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Don't forget, full day of programming over here at FM Digital Media. We'll have Will Wade's podcast coming to you after lunch today. We'll also have Mic'd Up with Mikey Matuk, 6 to 8 o'clock, originating as usual at 6 o'clock on Mic'd Up's page. Programming note for you, Chopping It Up with K-Door will originate Wednesday morning at same time, Wednesday morning. Chopping It Up with K-Door will be coming at you. So make sure you are linked up with everything. Like, share, comment, subscribe, notifications, All of it. We appreciate it. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., right here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.